In this episode of Alien Agenda, Colonel Gene explores a purported interaction between Earthlings and alien beings known as Evans. The story is rooted in the infamous 1947 Roswell crash and a classified briefing to President Reagan in 1981. The episode delves into the alleged exchange program, codenamed Project Crystal Night. Colonel Gene discusses the extraordinary details and implications of this top-secret mission, questioning the broader truth about UFOs and extraterrestrial life. Here's Colonel Gene.
This is Colonel Gene again with another episode of Alien Agenda. Today we're going to look at something that goes beyond simple observation or radar confirmation or videos. We're going to look at a story about the purported interaction between alien beings called Evans and Earthlings. I touched on this story in one of my earlier podcasts about the classified briefing that was given to President Reagan in 1981. Two sources that I've looked at about this interaction is the YouTube transcript of what is purported again to be the Reagan briefing in 1981, as well as a book called Secret Journey to Planet Serpo by Glenn Kassen. Let's get started on this interesting and somewhat bizarre incident. This project was actually started with the 1947 crash at Roswell and was codenamed Project Crystal Night. One of the Greys that were in the Roswell crash apparently lived and for several years had a relationship with a nurse, and they were called Evans, and he was called Eben 1. After they had been on the planet Earth for a while, they were able to repair their communications device, and Eben 1 had requested the permission to send some messages back to his home planet. One of those transmissions was a request or a suggestion that an exchange program be set up between Earthlings and Evans so that they could get to know each other better. Much of this information, again, either comes from the YouTube transcription of the classified briefing to President Reagan or from a series of emails that were received by a Victor Martinez of the internet group known as UFO Red List. In this group are about 150 people of different types, mainly scientists and UFO searchers, and they looked at this information provided by what was purported to be an anonymous member who was a government employee and part of this Project Crystal Night. Initially, the information that was provided by Anonymous in the emails was looked upon with some distrust, but later, as the information came to be received in subsequent emails, many of the people who were skeptical came around to believing that this information was in fact correct. This was a project that was claimed to be an exchange program where 12 members of our military are taken to a planet many light years away. One of the members of this 12-man crew, later in his life, revealed to his family the experiences that he had during this journey. The first email was sent to Mr. Martinez in November of 2005. It was followed up by 18 other emails through August of 2006, which contained some very striking details. And as I said, as these details became known, some of the distrust of this information disappeared. Later, Anonymous sent another set of 14 emails about this unusual journey to Planet Serpo, beginning in June of 2007 and going through April of 2011. Again, this story originated in Roswell with the request by Eben 1 to have an exchange program. And on July the 16th, 1965, an alien spaceship landed in the desert, and 12 members, carefully selected from our military, departed on the alien spaceship for a trip that was 39 light years from Earth. The exchange ended 13 years later when members of our team returned to planet Earth from their adventure on Planet Serpo. This project was actually above top secret and was initially approved by President Kennedy in 1962. After his assassination, President Johnson was first informed of this exchange approved by President Kennedy, and he then agreed to allow the exchange to go forward. The 12 men were selected from our military, some from the Air Force, some from the Army. Initially, there were 2 females that were also included, but in the end, only 12 men were selected to be sent on this journey. To help have the people remain anonymous, 12 members were all given 3-digit numbers with which they were identified. The overall responsibility of this mission was controlled by the super secret MJ-12 that was originally established by President Truman, and the operational details for this trip were dealt with by the Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA, that President Kennedy created. Most of the material about the 13-year adventure is provided by Anonymous was taken from a log that the team commander, who had the code name 102, kept. He reported the Ebens were able to make the 39 light-year journey in about 10 months, with the use of various wormholes that enable travel at speeds far in excess of the speed of light. Communications between the American team and the Ebens was made possible by one of the aliens called Eben 2, who mastered the English language. Our team members were simply unable to have a comparable understanding of the Eben language, which consisted of a high-pitched, sing-song type language that was simply undiscernible to most of the Americans, including the linguists that were part of the 12-person team. The commander's log described the planet of the Ebens, Planet Serpo, much like a desert near Roswell where the crash had occurred. He reported that the planet had 2 suns. That meant almost the entire day was light, and only during brief periods when one sun set, just prior to the other one rising, was there any darkness. Eben 2 further explained that originally they had been on a different planet, but for some reason relocated to this rather desolate place. The Ebens were friendly, but except with the help of Eben 2, who could communicate, it was not possible for our team to understand or really make any inroads to communicate with the average alien. All the Ebens seemed to be dressed almost alike, and they all wore a belt with some sort of box attached to it. There was almost no vegetation or any sign of children. Some of the Ebens wore a shawl, and Eben 2 told them that they were in fact females. Some uniforms were different colors, which turned out to be members of the military. The clothing worn by the people on the spaceship were also different from those of most of the people on Serpo. During the trip, one of our team members, number 308, who was a pilot, died, and the Ebens retained his body for what they said was health reasons. At some point on Serpo, 3 members of the American team were allowed to go to the place where his body was being stored for examination. They got in a craft that was a little like a helicopter and was taken to a building that housed innumerable glass jars. And in these jars, there were strange-looking animals that the Ebens had taken without permission from other planets. Eben 2 did explain, however, that none of the animals that they saw were intelligent beings. They were asked if the Ebens had any intelligent life, and they said yes. There were some samples of intelligent life in jars, but that they were taken to the planet after they had been found dead in their home planet. Many more details about this bizarre journey are described in Glenn Kassen's book, Secret Journey to Planet Serpo. The part of the team that went to this planet returned to Earth on August the 17th, 1978. The exchange had originally been planned for 10 years, but for some reason was extended to 13 years. As it turned out, 3 members of our team died, 1 on the trip, number 308, and 2 on the planet Serpo. 2 other members of the team decided that they wanted to remain on planet Serpo and chose not to return to Earth. The remaining 7 members came back on that August day in 1978. I would encourage listeners to read this book and listen to the briefing to President Reagan on YouTube. This is truly a bizarre account, and certainly the most unusual that I have uncovered about extraterrestrials in my search. There is little doubt in my mind that the truth about UFOs and intelligent life out there is fascinating and far from complete. I hope you have enjoyed this episode of Alien Agenda and that you will tell your friends about our podcast. Please contact Deborah Wallace, my publicist, if you would like to appear and be interviewed on Alien Agenda. Deborah can be contacted at deborah@pcm.agency. And until we meet again, be safe. This is Colonel Gene signing off for Alien Agenda.
Join Colonel Gene on Alien Agenda by sharing your UFO story. Contact Deborah Wallace via deborah@pcm.agency today.